What is up, Party Spock? Mr. Coffee, Sledgy subscriber stream, 15th of September, 2022. What is up? Astrobate, Mr. Coffee, good to see you. I've got games from Mr. Bytes, AKA AI. Mr. Bytes is not AI. Also known as Ubatis. Move 11 versus Mr. Coffee. I don't remember whose submission that was. We'll say it's from both. Astrobate, Sumahair, Big Dummy, and unclear, maybe we have a submission from XL Poker, but I want to wait for him to be here to clarify his submission, which might have been like a study. I was a little vague on it. So, we will begin turning noobs into masters. Metallurgy. There you are, XL Poker. What's up? I'm going to do the game with Yabatis first. I promised him I would do his game first, but XL Poker, you can clarify for me that you submitted like a study position to me. Okay. I wasn't sure. It gave me a headache when I looked at the board. But I'll try to figure it out. All right, let's start with Yabatis' game, and then we'll try to do the study position from XL Poker. So this was submitted earlier this week. What's up, everybody? I know I sound a little under the weather, but I'm feeling a little bit better. Just a normal cold. This is a very original opening, but interesting battle later on. Mr. Bytes is our subscriber who just resubscribed. Spectacular Camel, also my helper with the subscriber stream studies. Helpers. All right, so he's playing black here. These ratings are from the Evil Chess site, so they're a little less inflated than lichess. 1800 is approximately 2000 something here. I didn't notice he was nasally. I don't know, I don't hear myself well. I don't really know how I sound. I guess I am a little nasally. Now that you mention it, I am. Yeah, it's weird. You don't even notice it. I've got some congestion in my sinuses. What? Did you call me? You're in the list, brah. Alright. E4, D6, Peart's defense. D4, Knight A6. Theoretical novelty? I mean, I'm the guy who plays like Knight H6 on move 1 for fun, so I'm not going to criticize people for putting their knight on the side of the board. This is experimental. But it raises some interesting questions. I mean, is White's best move really to take that knight on the side of the board? At least with like the Knight H6, you're smashing Black's king side. Here, you're not even getting that. I mean, there's a lot of examples. I mean, it's a fairly common idea in the Sicilian, some lines of the Sicilian, some lines of the Pearts, where bishop takes A6 is bad. I don't think it's a no-brainer to play bishop takes A6. You're going to have to like structure your whole game around knight versus bishop and playing for, the positional advantage of the superior pawn structure. Black has a half of a file for the rook, and light square domination because he has a white square bishop that's unopposed. Having said that, I was saying to Yabatis that I think I would expect like 8 out of 10 random players to play bishop takes A6 in this position. I mean, honestly, when I play like Knight H6 and people play D4 and I do whatever, I'm happy when people play bishop takes h6. I don't think it's white's best move. They're giving up the bishop. I don't know if they're necessarily getting enough compensation. You know, I don't know. Is it here? Is here bishop takes h6 stronger than against d5? The one difference that's interesting to me is, like, if I play this opening here with d5, I'm trying to, like, open the game. If black faces bishop takes h6, pawn h6, the opening of the center might favor the bishop. If I play d6, I'm not opening the center as much. I guess the moral of the story is this better because, like, there's less likelihood the center would open up more quickly because black's only played d6 instead of d5? Anyway, it's an interesting philosophical question. You know, I don't think knight a6 is that bad. I mean, people do it in the Caro-Kann after this because there's the queen a5 idea to, like, justify by taking with the queen here. But, you know, I think if you asked like some random grandmasters, took a poll of grandmasters whether bishop takes a6 was a good move, honestly I think you'd get some mixed answers. I think it depends on white's style, honestly. If you play bishop takes a6, you're going to have to gear your entire game around, like, not having a light square bishop and playing for pawn structure advantage. So I think not taking it is probably as good as taking it. Knight f3, we see there's a game Alex Wohl here played. He is an old friend of Miles because Miles used to live in Australia. They always would play, like, weird openings, influenced each other. But here Wohl played c6, so he enables the queen a5 check again. Black played g6, so we're getting into Peert's territory. Knight a6 is like a known move in lines of the Peerts. Usually where black oftentimes is playing for c5. It's not that stupid. I think, like, white should play knight c3, probably. Bishop c4 is interesting. What else is interesting here for white? Knight c3 or bishop c4. I think those are the most promising. He plays bishop d3. I don't really get this. You know, why d3? It's restricted by your pawns. Not very promising against g6. You might point out that black could play knight b4 here and transfer your knight to the center. Knight b4 is not a bad move. White would move the bishop again. Airbnb. Now c3, I guess, makes sense. Keeping him off of b4, just building the center. So he's got, like, the traditional Schieber-Spieler formation that Schieber-Spieler would play against the modern. It's a modern where I would just, like, randomly play knight a6. So you hit him with c5. I think the c5, from my perspective, c5, it's a question of timing only, you know. I mean, I think that it's a reasonable move. I would prefer to get more developed before I strike with c5. So I think you should just play knight f6, but I know Ibadas doesn't really like playing knight f6. I could see him playing, like, e5 and knight e7. But knight f6 is probably black's best move here. Black provokes with c5. Now this started to remind me of, seriously, it's reminding me of the c3 Sicilian with d6. If you look at lines like this type of position happens here. Knight f6 usually would be played, although I guess not always. Mostly. Bishop d3, g6, knight f3. We're getting close. Bishop g7, castles. Do I hear knight a6? No one's actually played knight a6 in this position, but queen c7, we're getting really, really close. I could see knight a6 possibly, but actually, I mean, it's probably more common for it to go to d7. It's a rope-a-dope way that's not really trustworthy of playing against the c3 Sicilian. But anyways, it's not that bad. So c5, castle. And now again, it feels like black should develop his king side. But he plays that. I guess not such a bad move. It's not so easy to exploit black. White plays bishop e3. Now, I'm definitely playing my knight to f6 or h6. And I'm going to try to, hit it with g4 if I get attacked, or d5. This is probably the best move. I mean, you have 2 squares for your knight if white lunges forward. But Yabatis plays this. This is going too far. I mean, b5 is really... White has a4 here, I think. There's danger on this diagonal. Like, naturally, he can't play knight c7 because this falls. So I was going to suggest... I was kind of going to suggest queen c7. But there's also this problem. Knight a3, knight b5, so that doesn't really look good. I guess you should just play... I guess he's starting to win a pawn, though, isn't he? Come to think of it. What happens last move, by the way? Wait, let me see something here. If bishop takes pawn now, pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn. Okay, he's not threatening to win a pawn. Only after he plays bishop e3, he's now threatening to win a pawn. So that's why you played b5. I understand. Theoretically, I guess you could play like rook to c8, having played bishop d7. This is not such a stupid move. Rook c8 looks sensible. Probably reasonable. So you can't just play knight f6 necessarily? You still can. Alright, I don't like b5. And now white showed his true colors with the fearful a3. So we're dealing with like Melvin Milquetoast. I mean, a3 is like, wow, that's really aggressive. He's afraid to do anything. So I think that we see now black getting away with something. The guy could have played a4, and he played a3, c4, bishop c2. This break is still dangerous. So I think we should deal with it. I guess you could play b4 though. So e5. Wow, when I saw this move, my concern was for these squares here. My big fear is that white plays pawn takes pawn. But maybe it's not that bad. I mean, pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn. What are we going to do if he plays queen d6? There's a slight problem. White is better. Black has, like, plausible moves. I mean, queen f6 defends everything. Yeah, but white is better. a4 is a possibility in the future. So you were very lucky. I mean, he plays d5. If a4, you can probably keep it close to the b4. Queen c7, supporting knight c5. Here. That's like a3. Totally unnecessary. Is white thinking about maybe g4? It's funny how it turned into a Spanish. I would have played knight c5. Try to limit the damage with a4. But he plays knight e7. White could play a4. He'd probably have to play there, I would assume. Here. This is a horrible move. So far, I don't like a3, I don't like h3, and I don't like queen c1. All of his other moves were okay. I don't really like closing the center either. But what is white doing with queen c1? He's trying to play bishop h6, but that's like black's worst piece. It would be like playing h6 here. So Yabatis just lets him play bishop h6, of course. Knight c5, bishop h6. Thank you for trading off my worst piece. Black also has a very, very strong outposted knight on c5 now. So black went from like clearly worse, totally dubious position to advantage to black. Clear break with f5, and white's trading off our worst piece for us. Now, funny moment, black plays king f8. I would have castled here. Because I think your rook will benefit by being on the f-file. I think he was a little overly careful, or overly fancy would be a better word, with king f8. This is a strange move. Castle, and white's worse. Definitely worse. Because of the break. He can't really play, I mean, he might be able to try it, but a g4 looks kind of dangerous. Can white dare to play g4 if you castle, do you think? You could go like, yeah, you can't take and go king h8. You could go king h8 with the idea of knight g8. But that's really passive. I mean, I think the thing you'd like to do is play f5. But the question is, like, how dangerous is this? Is it dangerous or is it not dangerous? It looks dangerous. I think we're like losing a piece. Or close to it if we're not losing a piece. So g4. There's got to be a way. Uh-huh. King h8 is up there. It looks like black's passive. But that's actually a good move I think a lot of King's Indian players would play. With the idea of knight g8. I mean, it's been a while since I've been playing my King's Indian. This is also reasonable. It's unfortunate that f5 doesn't seem to work. Wow, the computer thinks it might work. G takes f5, rook f7. Okay. G takes f5, G takes f5. So you could just play rook f7, queen g5, rook f7. So it actually does work. You don't have to play knight g6. Yeah, I don't trust g4. Okay. So I don't like king f8 though. You know, he should seriously consider like moving his bishop back to e3. This is just not a plan. Queen g5, f6, putting her pawns on the right color. Queen e3, h6. And Yabata said he wants to play f5. But honestly, g5 is a strong plan too. Guys, we're doing an analysis stream tonight. Please subscribe. Thank you for the resub from Yabatis. Analysis stream for subscribers. Bijak, good to see you. Excel Poker study up next. Tell your friends about the stream. Bring your friends to the stream. Bring your mother, grandmother, toddlers. We need more word. Viewer numbers have been dropping a little bit lately. Since I'm not a cam girl. Alright, knight on bd2. Cats. I can bring guinea pigs. All I have are guinea pigs. We need a tweet advertising the stream from Nylon Mask. I think Nylon Mask would catch on if I could only get it out there that I created that. But alright. And we're lamenting our low viewer numbers. The problem is that people don't want to think, and they want cheap pop chess. And I don't provide cheap pop chess. I provide real chess for good players who are trying to get better. People are inherently lazy. If you're lazy, then it's not fun to watch my stream because it requires thinking, and thinking is hard, and most people don't want to do that, you know. They have shit for brains. People who have shit for brains don't want to watch my stream. That's the whole problem. It's also working hours for English-speaking people. Working hours. You're right. All my streams are working hours, or in the middle of the night. Well, there are English-speaking players in Europe. I'm here with Yabatis, and yeah, we've got a few of them. But the point is well taken from EB Tactic. I've only got unemployed. It's like a bad poker game. I'm only attracting like unemployed players. Alright, h6, knight on bd2. And then I thought g5 is good too. I like this. Speaking of chips, implantation. Brain implant. So there's more than one way to kill a cat. Or skin a cat. Sorry, Mr. Coffee. Just messing with you. You can do f5, but I feel like this is also stomping like Ice Cube with the g5. Yeah, my friend who likes to host poker games, I'm like, dude, you gotta have poker games on weekend nights. Like, you don't want to have like just a bunch of unemployed losers coming to your poker game. I mean, you need people who actually have money. It's not ideal to have a poker game on a Tuesday night, you know. And bad news for you. The people with money actually work for the most part. Sadly. f5. E takes f5. Yeah, he has to. I don't know. I mean, I shouldn't say he has to. I guess he could try to hold the line with like knight h2. And we go f4 and we start rolling with the big King's Indian type of pawn storm. It's not game over. It's just unpleasant for white. What do you guys think? Can we get a poll? I mean, is g5 better or f5? What I like about g5 is like you can't go here because after h3 is weak. Plus we're going knight here and then putting the implantation chip in his brain with knight g6, knight f4. I mean, I think the truth is like both are strong. I'm curious what the computer will say though. I mean, f5 is a more natural kind of break. Oh man, it's busting the a6. a6 is deep. a6 is really deep. So that's the kind of thing, like, think about all you got. Think a lot. I have to admit, man, I wouldn't have thought of a6 in this position. a6 is like prophylactic computer. Level 19. First we'll play a6 and then we'll play g5 or f5. Computer's like now, it's gone up to rook b8. This is even deeper. Rook b8 is really deep. But seriously, I mean, it's really an interesting position to debate between g5 and f5. They're right there at 1.1. So, oh, it looks like f5 took the lead on my shitty computer. Depth 18, f5 is in front. Alright, we'll see what the poll says. I went with g5. I went with g5. Looks slow engine. It's a notebook. Yeah, I wouldn't use this to prepare for the World Championship. We're gonna have a donation. Terror Eyes 666. Friendly name. Good to see you. EB Tactic. You played in my Simul? Under what account? We're gonna have my next fundraiser for a new streaming setup. I'm poor. Equipment funds drive. Poor at chess. Old laptop for old man. Eric the Red. G5. G5 and F5 tied. In your shoe. F5 cluster. E takes F5, and now it's very important that we don't, allow white ownership of E4. I mean, knight takes F5 is not a bad move. I mean, actually, his queen has the e2 square. Has to be gifted tier 1 sub to EB Farnham. That was that TV show, the Western TV show that was so good. The guy from Newhart played his character. What was the name of that show? Where they cursed all the time. It was like the television show with the worst language of all time. Queen e2. Okay, g takes f5, knight h4. Looks scary, but it's not really scary. f4. I like these pawn chains. You gotta give spectacular Camel credit. He's a good player in terms of appreciating pawn structures. Like, look what happened to that pawn. He told me, yeah, I thought about taking it. But there's no need. You know, you might open up play for the opponent. He made a weird comment. He said, like, h5 was about taking away g4. But I think he meant it was about taking away h5. g4 is covered. Black played h5 to take away h5. But it also enables for rook h6, so I think it's okay. White's king needs to be, like, on c1 right about now. This move is clearly, I guess, regarding the pawn on d5, but that's actually the last thing Black seemed to care about. It's merely an inconvenience. Our main plan is to attack like a King's Indian here. Knight e4. I don't think he missed anything obvious, though. He protects his point on d5. And the knight on h4 is kind of annoying. You know, how do we get that out of our face? So here was an interesting moment. I think, like, seriously, you could consider maybe king f6. I know that seems crazy, but I think we have to consider all the options. King f8, king f7, king f6. I guess king f6 is a little nutty, but it is kind of hard to see what white would do. What are you going to do? Like, how do you attack my king on f6? Here. And that introduces the threat of bishop g4, which I thought was his point. White plays to get the king off the file. Again, White's king would be best something around c1 in this position. But he plays this, which kind of commits him to the king side. And what I thought was interesting was Black is better here based on space, but most importantly based on pawn structure. So the pawn on d5 is a weakness. Black has pressure on the g file. Black has potential break on the queen side. I guess White also has potential break on the queen side with the a4. But it seems like Black has a big advantage. But there's no way to actually, like, checkmate White. And the knight on h4 it's pretty annoying. White could theoretically break with g3 too. So, I mean, you have to consider, like, king e8, getting your king off the file. But he plays knight f5. So Yobatis is willing to go into an ending, or a simplified position, right? This is an ending now. Bishop takes f5, bishop f5, queen f5. To the untrained eye, I mean, I guess White is completely okay here. You don't like knight f5, you see. Excel Poker saying he doesn't like knight f5. But I think there is some danger. If you play rook g5, he's hitting us with g3. Now there's like bishop takes h3, but it's very dangerous. Bishop takes h3, pawn takes f4. This is extremely, I don't know what's going on, style. Maybe if you want to play like XL Poker suggested, you have to like preface it with like King E8 or something first. I don't know. But maybe this is okay. If you want to play for the attack, you can walk your king over here to the queen side. There is a question whether white has any counterplay with g3. But now it might be too late, you know, because we're taking this, hitting the rook, threatening bishop g4. So I think this is a legitimate suggestion. King e8, playing for direct attack against enemy king. This is also a move. Actually, to be honest, I think he had bishop g4. He had bishop g4 and he missed it. This was set up, actually. You should have seen this. I'm almost certain that you've had this sort of trick before in these kind of structures. Normally he would have seen it, you know. So this move, just lazy. Yeah, I mean, after bishop g4, take, queen moves, rook takes. That kind of smells like mate. So I think white has to lose the exchange. He would have to give up the exchange. After bishop takes d1, rook takes d1. You know, it's not the end of the world, actually. The rooks aren't really doing a lot, so he'd rather lose the exchange than get checkmated. Safe to say. But Yabatis, yeah, he doesn't really do calculation unless it's absolutely necessary. Knight f5, bishop f5, bishop f5, queen f5, and then rook e1, preventing the roller e4. Now rook g5, rook g1. That seems strange and inconsistent. White clearly doesn't have a plan. By the way, rook e1, rook g5, it's too late for like g3. So he's like trying to play g3 or something. I mean, Yabatis could play e4 here, and he has a very strong position. I mean, this is extremely promising for black. For example, e4 here, rook g8, threatening rook takes g2 check. White is on the verge of losing. I don't know, maybe he can play something here that doesn't lose by force. But after rook g1, yeah, don't you just have this? e4, actually? Wow. Does white have a counter to that? He like doesn't have a move. White has to play, he has to play this, and then you have rook takes g2. Oh, I'm hallucinating. Alright, yeah. Sorry, I hallucinated you had another rook on g8. You need the other rook on g8 for it to work. So you have to play e4, queen e2, and then threaten to play rook takes g2. And then white could grovel for survival with something like f3. Yeah, it's not easy to break through. It wouldn't be that easy to break through, though black is probably winning. After rook g1, h4, and then a funny thing happened here, here. And that's cute. And so white can't take it. His best move, I don't know what, like this or something? I mean, clearly white is like losing the rook ending. Queen takes, rook d3. This falls, and like white's whole position is gonna like self-destruct. This message will self-destruct in 5 moves. I mean, you're threatening this. You're going to take out his central pawn on d5. It's over. But the funny thing is he just like took it. And then pawn takes. And obviously if you take with the queen, pawn takes, king takes, queen f4 mate. But white just did this. And then it's mate. Rook takes, pawn takes, queen takes. But we were joking that if you, and that was the end of the game, but if you added an extra move, like, I don't know, a6, rook f1, rook g3, pawn takes, king h1, it would be fun. It would be funny to sack your queen. This would be a sweet, like, position, no? To be like down a queen and a rook, and mate with just a rook left. I thought that would be kind of entertaining. So that's it for Yabatis' suggestion, or game submission. You can do rook g2. Alright. Guys, please subscribe. Make the stream great again. We're running out of subscribers. I need to do more clickbait and more bullet and more hot tub streams. So we'll try to incorporate all that in the future. EB Tactic is now a sub. EB Tactic, you can send me a link to the game. Yes. You can send me the link and I will add it to the end of the list though. You're on the end of the list. We got 6 games. Copy link. Oh no, if I do copy link it won't work, will it? Will it work? Will it work? It works. It works. I will review your game. You're in the list. You are now in the list. We go in order of the games submitted. I've got Excel Poker submitting a study. Mr. Coffee, move 11, Asterbait, Sumahair, Big Dummy, and Eric Dredd. So Excel Poker, explain the situation to me here. You can submit a game every week. Looking for a training partner about my rating or above. Give Excel Poker a call. Little shout out for Excel Poker. For next week, I invited you to study. All right, ready? You might want to shield your eyes. It was extremely heavy thunderstorms and hail here. Ice rain earlier. I couldn't even hear myself think. Oh my God! Black perpetual check. It's stalemate. Oh, it's stalemate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, we usually keep it to 10 games per week. So the question is, how the heck does white avoid stalemate in this position? This is a study that... So I think, when you solve a puzzle or a study, you got to ask yourself, do ancient aliens really exist? How does this game not end in stalemate, Can we reverse engineer that? White to play and it not be stalemate? If you have a headache, I recommend algopirin. I think I'm going to take one. Am I able to move in the study? Yeah. I am able to move. Obviously there's stalemates everywhere. Anywhere I take that rook, in most cases it's going to be a stalemate. White's obviously, on the bottom and going forward. How is it not stalemate? It would not be stalemate if there was like a rook on d8. I could take and like promote with check. If I could take on d8. I played poker badly, said c3 first, it seems. Why c3 though? I mean, you've got all these moves you can play. Any of these like inner positions: e3, d3, c3, b3. Move the king. I mean, before I even started looking at inner positions, I was thinking about, well, what happens if I move my king? What happens if I move my king? You know, like here. You could do any kind of checks. Anywhere, right? You just follow me around. But my point was, you know, the only place I could even conceive of a way where it's not stalemate is like where we're capturing this rook and giving mate, you know. But say like even we got to this position, I mean, you can still go here, 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 and then if you go here, I have, boom, rook takes c7, pawn takes, and it's not stalemate. And here, we have bad news for you. That's stalemate too. So I don't know. I don't see like how can I don't see how the king could get away. But studies are often like artistic. What do these pawns matter? You know, what's the deal? Again, I just curious. What if is it something with like giving mate here with a rook? Give away all the pawns. We'd still have the G pawn though. What if we just like start giving him all our pawns? How does that matter? Now we're just trapped on the side of the board. There's nothing we could do. That is a draw. So I'm just trying to think, does anyone have any ideas? Like, speaking without, like, looking at a computer engine, obviously. No spoilers. Does anyone have any, like, philosophical ideas behind this? How could we theoretically even win? You know, even if it's not obviously possible immediately. We come around the other way. I love this. This is my favorite variation. Here, check. Here, and then check. Oops, mate. No, stalemate. Okay. So where do we take the rook? Where do we need to take the rook that it's not stalemate? If it's not pawn takes d8, is there any other possibility? Alright, this is the position. So I mean, I don't know. b3 looks bad. Rook takes rook on h8 or a3. So I feel like I want to get away. If I want to get away, then my best shot is king b4. He has two ways to check me. Right? Like king b4, rook b3, king c4. But like, what's my plan? Here, 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 here. My head hurts. I'm going to take an algopirin. I can't even come up with an idea, you know? I don't even have a clue. You guys need to bring in some suggestions. Mr. Coffee, nice try. You need to play rook takes rook on h8. There's no way I'm getting to h8. What if I go over here? Nothing matters. I don't understand how anything could matter here. You sure this is the right position? Oh, I feel like I've seen this before. Lucid Chess Live. This is the first thing I thought of. You know, it's aesthetic. Giving up all the pawns. But I don't get it. I mean, how does it matter? I mean, I could give you all these pawns, right? You'd have to make that move. What if I go back here, and then here, and then here, and then here, and then here, right? Something like that. And now you have to do that move. Now he has like two possible moves. Something with this. It's got to be something like this. You have to escape the checks. I mean, you have to have a place to go. So here is, you're screwed. How many pawns do you have to give him is the question. Here, this is not enough. Rook a3. Give up the C and E pawns and play around. Give up the E pawn and the C pawn. Here. And then you do like that. And then here. And now here. And then here. I see. And then here. It's like here. He's only got one check. Here he's only got one check. Here he's only got one check. Here he's only got one check. Oh, that's interesting now. He can't take the rook. We can't take his rook. He can't take our rook. King go to a2 now. Lucid chess. So we go back. Like here, 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 here. And that's the idea. I couldn't have done it without you. The biggest hint was Yabatis. It was Yabatis' idea to give the C and the E pawns. What I didn't understand, like how we're going to give away the G pawn. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm not sure I would have found it on my own without the hint from Yabatis. Maybe eventually, but it would have given me a headache without help. Very cool. Yeah. These kind of endgame studies are definitely good for your game. Guys, we had a gift sub from Astrobate. Very thankful for that. KKDJ. As a new viewer, I'd like why the white pieces are just capturing the rook. Dude, it's stalemate. It's a study. It would be stalemate. It would end in a draw. Black has no moves. That's why. It's a normal chess position. It's just that any of those captures would be a draw because black doesn't have a legal move. This could easily be a real game. It's a composed position, but it could just as easily be a real game. Alright. Guys, please give some subs. Keep the stream alive. Make the stream great again. KKDJ just followed. Astrobate with a gift sub for EV Tactic. Thank you. Alright. I know that most people don't want to think, and that's why chess is hard and we don't have enough viewers here. I have to try to dumb it down a little bit. This is definitely not dumbing it down. We just lost like the 5 viewers we had because Excel Poker has to put in like chess studies. Karen spent the months leading up to his match with Apollo just solving endgame studies. Beer helps to think. I haven't had a beer in like 5 days. Maybe that's my problem. I don't like drinking when I'm sick. I've had a cold since Sunday. Alright. Now we're off. Back to real chess. Back to the studies. Back to the real games. No more confusion. Study. My studies. Real games. Actual games that were played. So, alright, September 15th. Today is September 15th. Is today anybody's birthday? That was a study. What was that? XD? XD. What was that? We've got Deepov Yabatis. Why is wrong study? Oops. This is Yabatis' study. Sorry. Wrong study. That's probably what you meant. It's in the wrong study. Studies I contribute to. Sorry, wrong study. I put you guys in a Yabatis study. Excel's Poker was to like turn off all the viewers we had. To like, screw this, I'm not watching this. I've got a headache. Alright. Serious chess is just no fun. We're not supposed to do Eric the Red yet. That's the last game. Okay, Mr. Coffee, move 11. Mr. Coffee, this is your submission, correct? Sir? Sire? Guys, be the first to donate. Be the first to start a hype train this year. Cheer now to be number 1. Mr. Coffee, we're going to analyze this game from your perspective. I have already seen it. D4. And now E3. Move 11 said today is James Fenimore Cooper's birthday. kind of meant like chess players. But that's interesting, move 11. It's somebody's birthday somewhere. Right. Okay, the Kali system, black plays c5. I was recommending to move 11 also like g6. But playing the Catalan, you know, you're just playing the Catalan with black. We could play b4, the Arkle. Oh, dude, that reminds me. I had this game with Nanu Cyprian where he did that. b4 is kind of annoying to play against, but it's not that great. It's a case for c5 though. If you play c5, white, you know, chances are white is not going to bust the wing gambit on you, but who knows? The wing gambit in the Kali. Alright, whatever. I'm gonna start being serious. Okay, c5. Hans Rey. Dutch chess grandmaster and writer. It's Hans's birthday today. Oh man, I should put that in the stream title. I didn't specify which Hans we're talking about. It would be awesome clickbait though. Hans's birthday. So Mr. Coffee played c4 for the first time. This is like objectively white's best move. If you analyze with Stockfish, Stockfish claims white's best move is bishop e2. Here we're playing the Queen's Gambit decline with black with an extra move. Well, it's especially important because of the scandal with Magnus and Hans in St. Louis. If I put Hans in the stream title, we'll instantly get like 50 viewers. But I don't want to like do that. I don't put Hans in title. So c5, I'm not that desperate. c5, c4. Carlson the Sloth's birthday was Tuesday. Oh, Mr. Coffee, do you sometimes play b3? I mean, that's a reasonable move order. c3 is classic passive Kali system style. And I mentioned bishop d3. I also wanted to suggest, as an alternative, white can play bishop to b5 check, kind of like a Bogo Indian hybrid in reverse. We looked at this. You know, the most aggressive here for black is like knight d7, probably. We looked at this with move 11. Takes a6, I thought. Was that a different position? Just analysis? I mean, it's like easy to play bishop d7. White has a great score here. No wins in 10 games. Obviously, knight c6 is a Rogozin reversed. That's got to be decent. I mean, you're a tempo up in like a main line opening. You can play. You're playing the Nimzo in reverse. I mean, I can't believe there's no games. But the engine says the best line is actually bishop d7, bishop e2, playing a Catalan in reverse. The problem is like no good players play this with white. That's why the score sucks. It's not because it's subjectively bad. Okay, c4. Mr. Cosby's first. Semi-Tarash, e6, and now knight c3. I know that a3 is considered to be a move here. There's a lot of subtleties about how to play the Queen's Gambit, Accepted, how to play the Queen's Gambit Accepted in reverse. You might want to study like all the games that Akiba Rubinstein ever played if you want to understand how to play this type of position for either side. About 100 plus 110 years ago, 115 years ago, this opening was extremely popular. Rubinstein has like dozens and dozens of games with both colors, and I don't know, it was just extremely popular in that era, like right after the turn of the century, the early 1900s. Tons of games from this type position. But A3, the thing is, like, if you're playing a Queen's Gambit Accepted type position where you're going to play an extended fianchetto, a lot of times you're going to bring your bishop to B2 on the long diagonal, and you don't necessarily want your knight to block your bishop. So that's why oftentimes it's tricky, like, committing the knight, even though that's a very natural move. If you have any intention to bring the bishop to B2, then it's often better not to bring your knight. Plus, if black adopts a Queen's Gambit Accepted type setup with A6, if you just play like routinely, you're going to get hit by these expanding pawns on the queen side. And oftentimes the knight is also vulnerable to expanding pawns with like B4. Yeah, I mean, Rubinstein should have had a chance to play for the World Championship. He was objectively the strongest player in the world at one point, but the dude was destroyed by the World Wars in various ways, especially World War I basically ended his chess career indirectly. But very instructed player, one of the best. He must have been abducted by aliens. He was so far ahead of his time in understanding the openings. Contributed a lot. But knight c3, okay. Knight c3, knight c6. Again, I like a6 for black here. Think this is a main line now. Knight c6, a3, a6, and then it's really hard to like decide what to play. I remember once I played, I thought I played 95 against Cherish Laiush. I don't know if I have a game in the database. I don't see it there. I had the feeling maybe that's not what happened. Maybe he did 94 against me. Is this a move? Different position. I don't know. Alright, anyways, we have knight c6, c takes d5. Now, move 11 could play knight takes d5 here. This is a semi-Tarrasch. It's also, commonly reached by the Panov move order. I think that's a very solid option. This is more aggressive objectively. He takes with the pawn. In general, anytime you make a pawn move, if you have a choice between a capture with a piece or with a pawn, I think 99% of the time capturing the pawn is like riskier. Every time you move a pawn, you weaken the initial position. The pawn structure like this is better in terms of like protecting the black king in a kingside castle type of position. So knight takes objectively is safer than this, which is more aggressive. Mr. Coffey played the best move now, I thought, bishop d5, and this is again after ed5 with bishop e2. How would White proceed after e takes d5? Bishop e2 is the main move, it turns out, but slightly passive. I like bishop e5 better in the Nimzo style. I'm not sure that White benefits from the knight being on c3 in this type of Panov in reverse. Swedish variation is a Tarrasch line. That's where white's like fianchettoed, move 11. No, that would be like where white is fianchettoed instead of playing e3. You know, Rubinstein played every conceivable setup against the Tarrasch. He played fianchetto. He basically helped to invent it with Schlechter. He played bishop f4 against the Tarrasch. He played e3 against the Tarrasch. He played bishop g5 against the Tarrasch. The Tarrasch was like massively popular thanks to Tarrasch, I guess, but he played like 4 different systems against the same opening, which is pretty cool. But this is basically a Nimzo in reverse. Now black played a6, which is very time consuming, you know, for a position with, I would say, you know, significant tension and kings in the center. A6 is like playing the, it's like playing the same-ish Nimzo, you know, but it's a more open position than a typical same-ish Nimzo. So anytime you do this, Asterbate did it in a game I looked at today. Anytime you do this, you're like really burning time. You know, it's just a little risky from the black side. So I think a big question is obviously like c takes d4. This is a straight up Panov Bafnik reversed, right? C takes d4. E takes d4 is kind of like boring but solid. But what about knight takes? Bishop d7. Or queen c7. You know, there's a funny trick in the reverse position. White has a tactic like this. But it doesn't work here because you have like queen a5 check, winning a piece on b5. It only works if white is castled. So if I castle and black's asleep at the switch here, or, you know, I mean, even this position, right, we could do it. Knight takes c6, b takes c6, knight takes d5, knight takes d5, queen takes d5 with a double pin. And here, this is an actual game Romain Edouard lost against Stefan Loeffler. Bishop b7, queen e4 check. Oh my god. That's a freaking disaster. I mean, for a 2600 player to blow his king position with black and just lose to a 2300 IM. Wow. See, that's the problem with being black. It's a risky system, even with the white pieces, but you're a tempo down trying to get away with queen c7. Black should play bishop d7. I mean, it's obvious. Queen c7 is a risky move. It's like playing the queen c2 Nimzo. Bishop d7 is more fundamental. Alright, anyway, I think that's the easiest way to play for black. Just release the tension here. But he plays the aggressive a6. White takes, and now what? White's position looks kind of hollow without that white squared bishop. But I think the point is we're going to get our bishop out to b2, possibly to a3. Castles, and now bishop d6. And Mr. Coffey played a theoretical novelty here, queen c2. Mr. Coffey is playing any number of openings. The black side of Nimzo with an extra move. The black side of the Caro-Kann Panov Bafnik with an extra move. We're talking about white side here. So everyone played d takes c5, including Dignoren, Geary. D takes c5, bishop takes c5, and then what? The number one move is b3. See, there's a lot of games with queen a4, like what's that about? That looks kind of artificial to me. b3 with the idea of bishop b2. No bad pieces. But one of the most important things is like black will come back with bishop d6 at some point, bishop b2, castles, but you're going to need this Oftentimes we need this guy to come back and guard our king side. Karpov used to play like this with black in the Caro-Kann. The knight pops over to like, g3. Even if black doubles our pawns or something, it wouldn't be a big deal. So look at this. Bishop takes f3. Here's Kramnik. Oh, this is a simul game from 2003. Kasparov was white. But I don't think white is necessarily better. I also don't think white is necessarily worse. It looks relatively balanced to me. Exception to the knight on knight 3. Well, the knight's still not great on knight 3, right? Make your knights great again. If the knight can get to f5, it's strong. But that's like a random simul. So Mr. Coffee played queen c2. It's probably not that bad of a move. But it is time consuming, Mr. Coffee. I mean, you've got a bishop on c1. Like, this is the move that screws around the least. You're getting yourself developed quickly. Getting the bishop in the game, that's like #1 priority. You don't want to stay with a bad bishop on c1. Mr. Coffee played it like a conventional Kali, though. It was like he was trying to play e4. But I think the problem is, it's the wrong idea here. You don't have a light square bishop, and your light squares are kind of soft. And I think that black has the upper hand on the light squares because he has a white square bishop and you don't. So I don't think you should be playing for e4. I think you're making a big mistake here, playing for e4. I think you should be playing, for the dark squares. So this square, bishop on b2, knight a4, maybe knight c5, the long diagonal. It's incidental that the queen might attack c6, but that's often risky. I looked at this variation: takes, knight e2, bishop d6. If you take this pawn here, there are common sacrifices like this in the Nimzo, where white side would sacrifice the pawn on c3 often. The queen c2 itself isn't so bad, but it does get worse. After castles, you should revert to the right plan, which is like take b3 here. We actually see a game. Bishop d6, bishop b2, rook e8 was played, and now knight e2. Yeah, I mean, this is a normal position, I think. It's about equal. But Mr. Coffee really screwed the pooch now. He played rook e1. And this is a bad idea. I think it would be okay if black took here and you took back with the pawn and, I don't know, your rook was open and you had knight e5, maybe. But black's not going to do that. This rook is going to remain silent. Black's not going to play pawn takes pawn necessarily. And this plan of e4 is bad. But move 11 played rook e8. This is probably a good move, man. He's threatening bishop g4, I would say. But I think this is totally crazy what you did here with e4. Black is in charge of the light squares. I don't think you should be messing with the light squares. You wasted time with rook e1, but maybe you should still do this kind of thing with the knight transfer over here, trying to protect your king side. Ultimately, rook e1 might not be such a bad move. You do weaken f2, though. It's possible knight takes f2 gets you later. I don't think it's that bad. It's not like you played a4 or some utterly random move. Rook e1 is fairly neutral. But now it gets bad, e4. So I'm really worried here. It's takes, bishop f5. Move 11 was almost winning by force if he does this. Take, bishop f5, knight takes, queen takes, and you're on the verge of getting mated on the back rank. White's very, very much hanging on by his fingernails here. It looks like you're like losing your central pawn on d4 at the very least. I mean, it's straight up like black just like has a huge advantage in development. So e4 just doesn't work. Move 11 played this move. It's also good. Take, c5, and now knight f3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And I expected move 11 to take, open the position for his bishops. And again, knight takes e4, bishop f5, knight takes f6, queen f6. White is just hanging on by a thread, just barely not getting mated on the back rank. But I still think black's better with the two bishops. But he goes for something different. He plays d4 with the protected passer on d4. That's obviously not great for white either, But Mr. Coffee could have played e5, and I don't know. This might be your only chance objectively. Maybe you're okay after e5. Pawn takes knight, pawn takes bishop, rook takes, knight takes, queen takes d6. It looks like black, although he's had in development, it looks like he's probably okay. You're probably okay. You got to be careful, but I feel like move 11 gave you a chance. Uber's mama. I think the important thing here is knocking out black's bishop pair. The bishop pair is going to kill you. Plus he has a protected passer on d4. So this variation forces him to A, lose his bishop pair, and B, he has to give up his protected passer on d4. But you basically didn't force those things to happen. And I think his best move was something like bishop b7, I can't remember, but he played here, and now b3. Yeah, if you had like a million moves in a row, Mr. Coffee, I think your position's okay. You could blockade, but you need like 2 or 3 moves. Oh no, he missed bishop b7 here. This is actually very strong. He played this. Coffee's like in slow motion. Too much pressure on e4. Now we practically have to play like knight d2, which looks awful, and we're just getting strafed on the king side. Okay, so again, you have to do it. You have to play like e5, but bishop takes f3. And now the rook is hanging here, so you can't take. So you played bishop g5, and I guess I don't understand this position. Well, I guess everything's good. Mr. Coffee just lost to central pawn. That's what you get for playing rook e1 and e4. He could also just take with the knight, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Bishop takes is more forcing. Queen b1. And now knight to d5 with a very invasive threat there. Black's up a clear pawn and has a protected passer on d4. Knight c4, bishop f4. By the way, like, this is very interesting. But it looks like Mr. Coffee could kind of hang on, maybe with like queen d2. It's awful, but it's not like black wins by force. So move 11 goes there, takes, and then Coffee tries to trade queens. But structurally, this protected passer is devastating. I would say if it was a rook ending, there'd be a small chance for survival, but I mean in a knight ending. Also, if your king were on d2 in the center, I mean, you'd have a little better chance to survive. Right, rook e4 is a good try. And this was interesting. Move 11 fixes his pawns, but he has a very forced continuation. Rook e8, f3, rook e6, and this was really nice. So well played by move 11. Rook e6, king f2 here, threatening rook down. It was good technique by black in the end. Mr. Coffee can't play rook g1 because of knight h3 check. So it was a clean game by move 11 at the end. And both of you guys use your time, which is nice to see. Check, king e1, and it's over. There's no way that white can survive with his king cut off, down 2 pawns. And this is another. I have enough. I've seen enough past h pawns in the last month or so to tell when it's over. The h pawn is a killer. Move 11 actually has fear of outside passed pawns, and I've developed it myself. At least you got rid of the pawn, man. The other one is the problem now. I'm not going to criticize black for the technique here. You know, probably there was a better way to do it, but objectively he was never not winning this position. So, Mr. Coffee has seen enough. Alright, yeah, no, Mr. Coffee, you're just not familiar. I mean, I felt like when you played the game, the way you played for e4 reminded me of like the standard Kali system. Like you're trying to break your bishop out, right? Your bishop's on c1, and you're trying to break it out by playing e4. But it's a totally different position where you don't have a light square bishop. Yeah, you absolutely can't afford to do that. All right, Asterbait. Asterbait. e4, c5, knight f3. Nothing of consequence. The Bodler. Let's do something amusing. Alright, I'm going to put in knight g5, move 4, player. This is a useful feature if you've never used it. You can search for an individual player, and we do like Asterbait with black. Go. Holy Jesus Christ. This is an unbelievable statistic. Asterbait has played this position 68 times on lichess. Do you have like 1 million games? No. Hello, friends. Tomato Farmer. Thanks, Mr. Coffee, the first donation of the week. I know there's an economic downturn. That's why we need your support more than ever. Don't forget to donate, support the stream. Start a hype train. Now! Mr. Coffee with 299 bits. Guys, chess is hard. Analyzing chess seriously takes work. I realize that's why we don't have 500 viewers, because serious people don't want to, you know, to take chess seriously. I mean, people don't want to take chess seriously. It's hard work. It's just a diversion to most people, but I'm trying to really teach the gospel of chess here. Asterbait, you have 68 games where people played this really bad move, knight g5. That is unbelievable. What's the takeaway? Bishop c4 against the Sicilian is like toxic. There's some toxic promotion of this opening. I don't understand why so many people play this setup for white. But you know, knight g5 is just patently a bad move. Yeah, we have a friend who plays bishop c4 against the Caro-Kann. They think it's e4, e5. But I mean, what's the takeaway? That Asterbait has 68 games here, and they've played knight g5. First of all, I guess you got to play stronger players if you want to play, like, you know, serious openings. d5 doesn't work. You've never tried that. I wish it would work. it just doesn't work, right? I mean, this would win a piece. It's a nice trap, Masturbate, if you wanna throw it out there. I don't promote doing that, but you could win a piece against a lot of noobs who would fall for this. Winning the knight on a cheapo. But what I was interested in is the other variation. Pawn takes e6, pawn takes pawn. Unfortunately, queen takes g5, pawn takes f7, check, winning the piece back with a big advantage. You could, I think you did something similar in a game where you gambited the pawn. Like, this is probably playable. You could gambit the pawn like a Scandinavian. But it's not objectively sound. You would be making knight g5, a good move, essentially. So this is the only good move. I love the breakdown. 17 people hung their knight on g5 against Asterbate in this position. Dude, you're sick. Mastering the Baudelaire. I'm gonna create a chessable opening repertoire. Mastering the queen f3 variation of the Baudelaire, the knight hang variation. You have a 59% winning statistic against queen f3, dude. That's unbelievable. One day he wasn't thinking and he played queen f6. Unbelievable. He just figured, I'll take it easy on this guy. I'm gonna cut him a break. Wow, 6 people played c3. And twice you cut them breaks. It's unbelievable. 2 times you played knight to c6, not taking the free knight on g5. And they're both games from last year. Okay, this guy played castles. Wow. So that's the castle variation. Mr. Coffee, you gotta make the Asterbate, opening book. Three out of 5 cases Asterbate took the knight. They're all played in the last 2 years. I guess it depends on what kind of mood he's in. If he doesn't want to be too stressed, he's just I'll play d6 today. I want to give this guy a chance. Let's tease him a little. He played queen f3 and you still didn't take it on g5. Okay, he's playing with no sleep. I don't know. The game in question, he saw it. Queen takes g5. And now d4. But Asterbate has experience in this position. He has previous game from June, the same exact position. We previously played queen e7. It's the only move that keeps the c-pawn protected. I mean, you could be adventurous and play queen h4. I'm constantly telling people, if you're up material, don't do anything fancy. Just win the game based on your material advantage. Don't take chances and take risks when you're up material, up a piece here. This is absolutely gotta be the best move. So you lost the game where your opponent played d5. I think that makes sense for white. It makes sense. I mean, he has some space advantage with d5. He's down a piece, but there's still practical chances to stay alive. Look what Asterbate did. Look how he lost to this guy, right? In the other game, his opponent played d5 and he played b5. He played b5. What's the situation here? We're up a piece for 1 pawn. You couldn't just live with that. You had to impulsively or compulsively play b5. This is totally unnecessary. If you had just consolidated your position, you would have won the game. What's the best move for black? Probably d6, preventing, the pawn from coming up. This is not particularly dangerous. You can just trade pieces with bishop takes. And we're going to win. Easy win. If he doesn't, you could even lock the center with e5. If he checks, no big deal. You've got 2 pieces to interpose. It's a Benoni where you're up a piece. Why did you lose? Because you had to be fancy with like b5 in the other game. Okay, this guy took. So we're in a new theoretical position now. Queen takes c5. Up a piece. Do you have compensation for your piece? For his piece? I mean, Astrape's up a piece, but does he have compensation for his piece? That's the question. For his opponent's piece. Does he have a piece and a positional advantage? No, not yet. Not yet. White plays queen d3, developing. Knight c6, threatening to fork with knight e5. And it's hard to recommend a good move for white here. I guess bishop b3. He played that. Do we have a forced win? I mean, it's really tempting to play knight b4. I said, like, you shouldn't take chances when you're up material. But I mean, if you're just going to hand material over for free, I'm not going to, you know, say no. White's got to play queen e2, and then we're winning a rook. So we have compensation for his material now. You play knight e5 instead. See, the problem is, like, this is a double threat. You're attacking c2 and his queen while keeping pressure on b5, but you played knight e5, which isn't a double threat. You're only attacking his queen and keeping pressure on b5, so now he just goes back here or here. And now your knight is just sitting in the middle of the board as a target, potentially. Tempo. You didn't play queen d6. Tell me you didn't play queen d6. Why would you play queen d6 in this position? Why would you play queen d6 over c7? I mean, c7 is a perfectly normal Sicilian square. You don't want your pieces out in front of the pawn chain. Your knight's already out in front of the pawn chain. Your queen is now somewhat vulnerable. Here you block your d-pawn, and you're out in front of the pawn chain. Absolutely c7. It's a totally standard square. I don't understand why he would not put his queen on c7. There's really no upside to queen d6. You're not, like, attacking anything. You're only putting in an awkward place for no reason. Here. How much time did he spend on that move? 4 seconds. Knight c3. And now the shocking thing, he didn't play for the cheap mate in 1. Sometimes he does this where he like keeps the cheapo like in reserve. Like it was too obvious. I mean, this is just a strong move. Because not only you're threatening mate in 1, you're going to take away his best minor piece, the bishop on e3. White's good bishop. He has no answer to that. You know, theoretically he can play e5, but it doesn't do anything. Just take another pawn. So this is not necessary for any reason. If anything, I would castle. But you shouldn't mess around and give him time. You should play knight g4. It simplifies, it threatens mate, and you eliminate his best minor piece. You need to concentrate. Here, this is not essential. Now he takes. You took with a d-pawn. You could take any possible way, to be honest. But I like, don't know. Why is your king still in the center? There's the tempo. And again, now we're too late. We're too late. If queen c7, bishop c5, And if knight g4, he has bishop d6. Unfortunately, like, screwing our plans up. Now it's like harder to win. You know, you're gonna try to trade queens, but your king is like trapped in the middle of the board. And it's hard to coordinate. He could avoid the exchange of queens. You know, this is just a sample of what might happen. I mean, it's not that easy now, because you screwed around. Rook a d1, queen e7. So that's why he played queen e7. Maybe it is a good move. We have to give up on the cheapos, so kudos for that. You know, at least like you didn't let yourself get trapped in the center. Good job. Now queen a4, the move that doesn't do anything. If anything, maybe knight a4, trying to play bishop c5. I think if knight a4, you might play b6. Or f4, h3. You did b6 later. Castle, thank you. Queen b3. Now this bishop is good. Totally unprincipled. Yeah, I would not play that move. Dude, just develop your pieces. Bishop e7 or bishop a6. There's no reason to play queen h4. You just like lost the tempo. If this guy plays bishop g3, what did you just accomplish? Nothing. You just lost a move. Now you have to go back to e7 and it's his turn. This is terrible. Wow, the worst move ever. This is the official worst move of the day. The guy trades off his good bishop for the knight on e5. Effectively like making it almost impossible for black to make a mistake. Bishop takes e5. Yeah, I mean, he just like gave away his best minor piece and simplified the game, so it's easy for black to win. g3, queen h3. Notice that queen is kind of out of position outside the pawn chain. Acerbate does that a lot. And now he just totally lost his mind. Thank you for not playing bishop takes c3. Even that's probably not that bad, since you're up a piece. But I think, like, considering our king with e6, you know, g6 and all this, I would just play bishop g7. Be patient. Play bishop g7, c5, bishop b7, and you've got the long term. But look what he did. He played bishop a6. Like, you're sacrificing two bishops for a rook. The guy doesn't take this bishop. Bishop takes, rook takes. I mean, black's still winning, but he has a little bit better chance now, only down the exchange rather than a whole piece down. So I think that was a mistake here. Why would you not go back to g7 where you're safer? Yeah, that was a huge mistake. Now your rook is awkward here. And then Acerbate with a sneaky e5, threatening the rook down there. Again, the guy can win two pieces with the rook, but he just can't see a tactic to save his life. Rook takes c7, rook takes c7, queen takes a6, pawn takes f4, and black's winning, right? But this guy could not find a tactic, man. Queen takes d7, just a free rook. His queen is bottled up. Mate. Even a helpmate at the end. I mean, king g2 still keeps the game going. Alright, Acerbate, you got a lot of work to do. You don't want to let up because you're winning. Alright, next game, Sumeher. Sumeher with the white pieces against Cassiopeia. I have the feeling like I've seen this before. Did you play the same player before? Have you played the same player before, Sumeher? Tezek, welcome. Thanks everybody for joining me for Serious Analysis stream. Tomato Farmer. I didn't do your game. Your game is one of the later ones. Incognito tab. No, you're next, big dummy. Chess Zebra, thanks for being a subscriber. Acerbate. I tried to explain to him today, you know, I'm trying to teach chess from perspective of we're trying to play the best moves. That's the philosophy that I approach the game from. Not always. I mean, sometimes there's practical considerations. You're playing against a specific player. It's a specific situation in a tournament, whatever. But in general, I want to try to play the best move, like a machine, like a computer, like a scientist, like Botvinnik. But Acerbate, I have to try to teach him philosophically how to seek the truth. Seek the truth in the position, not try to play fast, try to win on time, try to be cute, trying to play great chess, means we're trying to find the best possible moves and win the most devastating fashion possible. Acerbate has a tendency to kind of go off pissed and start trying to play for funky like tricks and traps but he's made huge progress since the beginning in the 6 years that I've been streaming, and the 4 years, I don't know, that you've been watching the stream, Acerbate. You've played some really good positional games that you never were capable of a few years ago. This is Sumaher with white. So knight c3, d5. It would be cool if you had Discord, and for each game you review, the player joins. I do have Discord. We have a Discord. I should be more active with the Discord. Oh, okay. You mean voice chat? Yeah. Now I get what you mean. I didn't understand. Alright. Like, question and answer. Yeah, that's a cool idea. Now, Sumaher's live. So here he played a new move. I've never seen him play this move. Normally, Sumaher always plays like standard kind of Queen's Gambit, Knight f3, Bishop g5 based setups. Theoretically, Knight c3 is not supposed to be like the best way to play the Catalan with white. If we play Bishop b4, it's the game between Hans and Magnus. Did someone say Hans? The Hans Magnus variation with Bishop b4. Let's get a little clickbait out there. If Bishop e4, it's Magnus Hans. I doubt that Bishop e4 is necessarily Black's best move, though. I kind of wonder about other moves. And the main one is d takes c. Because in the Catalan, see, like, the idea is you have ways to get your pawn back if Black grabs it. Normally Queen c2, Queen takes c4. Sometimes it's like Queen a4 check, Queen takes c4. Sometimes you even play like Knight a3 and Knight takes c4, or Knight bd2 and Knight takes c4. But the problem is, if you played Knight c3, then most of these like things don't exist. So, Hans Magnus aside, I think that d takes c4 is the acid test of this position. White's going to have to play a gambit line of the Catalan that doesn't have a very good reputation. Basically, you give the pawn up and you don't get it back. And theoretically, like, most people don't consider it to be a big deal. So Black can play it. You could transpose to a Slav type of setup, like c6 and b5, trying to hold on to the pawn. Let's see what happens. Let's say like Knight f3. I mean, there are two variations. There's also like Bishop g2, but say Knight f3. Now, if Bishop b4, we transpose to a kind of Magnus Hans, Nimzo, whatever. I don't know. But I'm a little curious about like c5. I guess that's actually a transition to a symmetrical English, which is probably okay. So what is Black's best move here? Keeping the pawn. Probably A6. A6 looks... A6 or C6. I mean, C6 is definitely standard. Romanician sometimes played stuff like this. If A6, do we have something like Queen A4 check, B5, Knight takes B5? Is this a thing, or does it like lose a piece? Does this like lose a piece to Bishop D7? I don't feel good. My stomach doesn't feel good right now. I think like we're losing a piece, right? Mommy, I don't feel good. So I suspect this is, yeah, no, C6 is a semi-Slav transposition, but A6 might be a more serious problem. Because you've got stuff like A4, Knight C6, and then sitting on these squares. I would imagine this is just bad. So it's like very marginal. After G3, that's black's best move. Another interesting move is C5. Because I think this is like an inaccurate move order for white in a Tarrasch situation. But the real big question would be on C takes D. Black doesn't routinely just transpose to the normal Tarrasch. Black has C takes D coming back at you, you know? So this, what's going on here? Queen A4 check is probably a variation. I mean, I'd be surprised if B5 isn't a move. Here we go again. B5, Knight takes B5. No. So Bishop D7, Queen takes D4. This is probably a position, right? No games? Oh, Asterbait. I put it on the Asterbait variation. Dan Bogdan versus Cherechesh Marius. Better for black. Wow. Yeah, so it's bad. It's bad for white. Wow. Yeah, it's screwed, man. Wow, unbelievable. C5 and black's just better. Just like that. So black has 2 good moves. 3 good moves. The computer likes Bishop E4, but I'm not as sold on that. That's transposing back into Hans Magnus. No, I think these moves are good. D takes C4 is good, and C5 is maybe the simplest. This is like, dude, this is the end. White isn't even equal. White is worse here. This is a serious problem. You're supposed to play Knight F3 first. You know, it's the Knight on C3. White is actually slightly worse. It's unbelievable. Alright. So, accuracy in the opening is underrated. Even more shocking is the statistic here. Look at this position. That's mind-boggling. The master database, these so-called grandmasters, I mean, I figured it out on my own, but Bishop E7 never entered my mind. You know, Bishop E7 is a passive move. So some of these grandmasters and masters found D takes C4 and C5, but 18 of them played Bishop E7. That's like, what the who are these people that played Bishop E7? It came out of a different move order, maybe? Transpositions make the positions deceiving, exactly. So, like, nobody should play Bishop E7 in this position. This is definitely a mistake. That has to be a transposition. I mean, there are a few made this mistake, playing routinely, but for the most part, Knight of B7 just, you know, it's just like a random move. It's just a random move. It's not great, it's not terrible. But I mean, you got to decide what to do now. In general, taking on D5 is not great if black hasn't played B6, I would say. Here, he can try to take the pawn and hang on to it with like Knight B6. I think that's probably his most interesting try. And he does d takes c4. Okay, you're playing a gambit. I would develop my pieces. Knight f3 and see what happens. I think you gotta play knight f3 here. We've transposed to some kind of weird variation of the Catalan. Knight f3 is the only move in this position. I mean, maybe you could play e4. Can you get the pawn back with queen a4? Okay, let's take a look. You can get the pawn back, but it's like, is it worth it? a6, queen takes c4. You know, b5 isn't necessarily the point because he still doesn't have an answer there. It seems to be this. Here's a Josef Dorfman game from 1994 with black. Yeah, I mean, I think that white's queen is very problematic. It's not so simple to get the pawn back. I think he should play knight f3. e3 is really slow. Too slow. There's really no reason to play that move. I guess c6 is okay. I don't see a problem with that. But actually he can't play b5 because the knight captures. So I'm not sure. You know, this is the kind of situation where black might have a weird move like rook b8. But then again, you know, your queen a4 questions start to pop up. a4. Black doesn't have to play a5, but it's a reasonable move. And then queen e2. So suddenly, like, there's a problem. We're threatening to get the pawn back with queen takes c. Is knight b6 horrible? No. But if I'm going to play knight b6, I'd probably not play. I would not play c6 as well. So I think after e3 you can play knight b6. If you want to play knight b6, play knight b6 here. If a4, you're going to play a5. But I wouldn't necessarily play c6 then, unless I have to. Maybe you'll have to eventually, but there's no need to play both. Yeah, knight b6 is a move. It's definitely a move. No, so it looks like white might get his pawn back. He plays knight b6 now, okay. Now we need to swing over and try to get the pawn back in a different way. You know, his knight d5 looks like a waste of time, but he does have a big outpost here on b4. I don't see any plus side of bishop d6. It's going to be hit by an advancing pawn, maybe like just here. It's hard to see that bishop d6 is a good idea. You know, now white, yeah, I mean, clearly white has compensation for the sacrificed pawn at this point. White totally took over the whole center, and the knight on b6 is awkward. Black's bishop is hemmed in on c8. Bishop on d6 is going to get attacked, likely again. White can also play bishop a3, trading off black's good bishop. We have great compensation. Castles, e5. This is a double-edged move because it gives black access to the d5 square. So I don't automatically want to play that. It may be good, but it also might be better to wait. It depends. You know, we've got a strong attack on the king side. h4 is a normal type of move. But we're going to telegraph our intentions if we play that. Obviously, black's knowing that we're going to look for knight g5. We're playing for a king side attack. But how many moves does white have here? e5, knight g5, rook d1. I mean, rook d1 doesn't really do anything either. There's also knight c4 trying to win the pawn back. But that's like almost like what black's hoping for. I think the scarier thing is the kingside attack. I knew that the bishop on d6 was going to cost black. He lost time. If he had put the bishop on e7 in the first place, this wouldn't have come with tempo. Now white has knight d2, knight e4, and this is a very classic maneuver. And I think your bishop on c1 is well stationed. It doesn't need to move. So if I'm white, I would just play maybe rook d1, but I mean the question is this a threat? So I think Sumair saw it. He wants to play knight d2, but he's afraid of c5. c5 would put massive pressure on suddenly on white's center out of nowhere. You know, here, takes, and if this falls, maybe we're just blowing him away, you know? But it would have to be very carefully calculated. Are we blowing him away or not? Do we have a crushing attack on the king side? Is it fast enough? Does it work concretely? You know? Or does black have defense? And it's very committal. So he played bishop e3, which I understand he wanted to reinforce this and try to stop like c5. Probably not a bad move. Here, does nothing. I shouldn't say that. I mean, he's supporting c5. Okay, queen c7, black's position very passive, and now knight d2, but he gets in c5. And then the point was to play knight e4. Yeah, but bishop e3, knight d5, it's not such a big deal. You know, okay, this is fine. He can have our bishop. White's still better, I think. Here, b6. But you're probably right. Maybe it's better than what he did. It's probably better than queen c7. I mean, the knight on b6 is no prize. But actually, on that move, yeah, I mean, it unravels b5. It means we might take this. We can take with the f pawn. I mean, white can just take the pawn. I mean, this type position, white's still better, but there are threats of bishop a6. So it's kind of not clear. I have the feeling black has enough counterplay. So I don't know, you know, what to suggest other than that. I mean, I wanted to play, actually, I wanted to play knight d2, but the question is this. Maybe we have a really strong attack here, actually. I looked at knight e4, but what about other options like taking? If he takes, then it's like, wham, knight e4. Very strong threats on the king side from white, you know. It looks like dangerous position for black. Here, obviously a reasonable try. Queen c7, knight d2, c5, and now this was an interesting move. Discouraging black from taking on d4, I guess. Black really needs to develop. I mean, you got to consider this, maybe. Bishop d7. Here, here. Yeah, I mean, we're getting into greedy territory now. Maybe f6 at some point. Yeah, but then you got to check your diapers. Because that's a very dangerous move. F6 is like whole new territory of danger. You know, we start to weaken the king side. I agree, it's completely feasible, but it's also, you know, very, very double-edged. Black starts to weaken these squares over here. I'll play f4. It's not clear if it's like favorable or unfavorable. Always tricky playing f6 or f5 in the Catalan. So c3 here, 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 here. I mean, if I'm black, I'm kind of happy that I managed to get to a position where I'm like hanging on, you know, it looks like. This is like the best black's position's been in a while. Equal material. Like, can Leko Peter hold black's position? I feel like black has good chances to hold on here. He simplified a lot. White doesn't have an attack, just like a slight static advantage in the endgame. Right about now, it's time to, do what we have to do to draw. He played queen d7. Interesting idea to stay on this pawn. Queen e7 is a more natural square. I think black can lose a pawn here, i.e. like the b7 pawn. He could probably sacrifice the b7 pawn in a lot of cases and still... Yeah, I mean, white has more space, but there's a lot of cases where now it's so simplified. Like, how is white going to win? White isn't going to win endgames like 5 against 4 on the king's side. What positions is white going to win? With the queens on, where his rook gets on the 7th and he checkmates black? What endgames is white going to win? Where he wins both the b and the a pawn? Maybe where he gets in d5 and attacks f7? We can see how white ends up winning the game. Queen d7, rook c4, b6, hanging a rook, bishop a6, and then bishop c6. So he basically hung a piece. But objectively, how bad is this position for black? Now I'm skeptical. After queen d7, I'm not sure this is the best move. Yeah, I doubt. I'm skeptical it's even that high. I don't think white's advantage is as much as 1.5. It's probably less. I bet it's like a pawn or less. I mean, he's on the pawn. It makes sense. He ties white down to that. So, okay, rook c4. Now, black has a lot of moves. I mean, he could have just played rook a6, rook c1. I guess that's not a good idea. All right, I take it back. I don't like queen d7. Queen d7 is the only square our bishop can go to. Queen b6 allows... Oh no, queen b6 makes sense because we're on d4. But black has, like, white has rook c1. Now we just play bishop d7. I mean, there are 2 weak points here for white. d4 and a4. Screw queen d7. I don't like this. Queen d7 is like a natural move. You've got access to b4. Queen b6 puts pressure on d4. I think this is a problem, because now, after rook c1, rook c4, what do? We can't develop our bishop, and we can't move our b pawn. So now, and meanwhile, white's threatening to like play rook c1 and go down on the 7th with some threats. So it looks like this position, I think it's like less than a pawn advantage. Wow, the engine likes queen d7. Wow. Yeah, it's 0.2. But my queen e7 move, it's closer now. Queen e7 is plus 0.8 for white. It should be a draw, 0.9. Queen b6 and queen e7. This ends up being the best move, surprisingly, queen d7. Rook c4. And all he has to do is play rook b8. I was scared of rook c1. But it's no big deal. Black can do like anything. Yeah, so Sumer was lucky there. I mean, he kept a small advantage. But he shouldn't have gotten the free piece. Alright. Next game, big dummy. Big dummy with the white pieces. He said it was a classic endgame meltdown or something to that effect. Is Blumenfeld Gambit today? Is Blumenfeld Gambit totally sound opening? Well, I did a video series on that for the site called The Chess World. Don't buy it on my account, though, because I don't get paid royalties on it. It's a few years old. Is it a fully sound opening? Yeah, probably not. Objectively, I don't fully trust the Blumenfeld Gambit. But it's interesting, and most people aren't real well prepared for it. So I think, yeah, it's not totally sound. It has some minor problems. e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop e5, a6, here, d6. So it's the Steinitz deferred. This is my first tournament game with e4, I think. Was against John Curdo, New Hampshire, like 1990, 91. I think I must have played c3. I'm pretty sure it was my first ever e4 game. It was funny, it was a draw with a senior master. C3. C3, probably not mover though. C3 allows the siesta variation, right? I probably castled and then played c3 in the next move. I remember what John played. I don't know if he played this. He either played knight e7 or bishop d7. Probably this, and then like this. I just remember I did something crazy with queen h5 at some point. I didn't do like this, did I? And I have to get my old games. I had to get my old games entered into a database or something. Even if white plays the best against Blumenfeld Gambit, black isn't in big trouble and can live with it. Yeah, it's a playable opening. My problem with the Blumenfeld Gambit is like most people don't go into it. I would be prepared for them, and then there's like a million ways to avoid it. C3, it's not a complete opening repertoire. C3, f5. So this is the siesta variation, where white's like taking on f5, and it's quite sharp. And I don't know a lot about it, but I did notice that it had like a resurgence about 5 years ago. I saw someone playing it a major open. So why does c3 allow the siesta but not castles? Well, I mean, it's about c3. C3 weakens the d3 square. But if you castle, you would allow, I guess, some form of Norwegian variation. Black can play like b5, bishop b3, knight a5. This is nothing to necessarily be afraid of. I mean, there's the Ivanchuk game where he played like exactly the same game I had prior, but Dominguez, or who was that? Dominguez Morozevich? Dominguez Ivanchuk is the game I'm thinking of from 2016. Yeah, Ivanchuk playing a risky line there. This is nothing to be afraid of, though. So the question is, like, I'm afraid of Mamedyarov doing some crazy shit like playing g5 or something, I know that objectively it's something to, like, it's something I should be afraid of, but we've seen him do crazy stuff before. If you commit your king, black might try some crazy attack, possibly. Even Mamedyarov hasn't done that. Though he would do it on the next move, probably. If you screw around another move. There was some game where he did it against Grishuk very early. Castles is definitely the safest move for white. Well, I mean, actually, the safest move for white is probably like bishop takes c6, b takes c, and then bust the center. Bust the move. This is not to everybody's liking, though. Probably move 11 would like this. f6. This is better for white, but still very complicated. Did we see a game with like c4? I remember looking at a game, I think that was a different position, where White played for like a quick c5 in a similar position. That's another option for you. But okay, this siesta shouldn't be necessarily good for black. The best move is supposed to be bishop d7, he plays f5, you take, bishop takes f5, and now d4. So the main line is castles. And this is the question. Bishop d3. I mean, that's where the really crazy variations are. The bishop wedges itself on d3 and like cuts the board in half. I don't know, what the final analysis of this is. Judging by the computer evaluation, it looks okay for black. I think like contemporary wisdom was that it wasn't reliable. So I would guess like the computers have overturned like old school analysis on this variation, basically. So maybe d4 is possibly better. I don't know this line. I mean, it's similar to some lines in the Rosalimo that I played with black, but not quite the same. It is a good sign that Kasparov was willing to play with white and Grishuk. e4. Now, if we look at the statistics, knight g5 has a horrible score. Well, I mean, the problem with knight g5 is, like, if it gets hit, where is it going? We can't... I mean, I guess you can go to h3 if you have queen h5 check, bishop takes h3, so this is not a problem, because we have this check here. That's obviously bad for black. Black plays d5, f3, now h6. And now if knight h3, your structure gets blown away. So it's f takes e4. And if pawn takes, now we have knight h3, and this is not a problem because of queen h5 check. So black has to play like h takes g. And we get the valuable bishop. But where is white's king going to go? I'm not sure, but I guess we should avoid this variation. So you played queen e2, which is the move that has a notable score here for white. I would never guess that move off the top of my head. Knight g5 is the engine. Let's just double check this line. Knight g5, d5, f3, h6, f takes e4, h takes g5, e takes f5, bishop d6, h3. Not a move most humans would play. Queen f3. The white squares are weak. Queen e7 check, because we don't like trading queens. King d1. Castle's queenside. And notably, there's a game here by Dvoris, who's a very experienced player with white. The computer gives him a big edge after rook e1. And he drew with a young future 2600. It's interesting. I don't know. White's better, but not so easy. There might be improvements for both sides. So you played queen e2. But I guess the obvious question is, like, what's up with knight e5 here? I don't understand. This is a very natural move. Does he have b5 or something weird? He doesn't have b5, does he? b5? Knight takes here and then some crazy move? That's ridiculous, right? Queen f6. I mean, anything's possible, right? But I don't know where he puts the queen here. I don't know where to put the queen. I mean, what's wrong with knight e5? There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's just like the best move. Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Yeah, he just gives you knight e5. It's your best move. Kaleidoscope guy. Troublemaker. Colonoscopy guy. What's up? Colonoscopy guy gifted tier 1 sub to Anal Bead Bot. They've given 15 gift subs in the channel. Oh man. We never look a gift bot in the mouth. New and interesting ways to cheat at chess. Click here for more info. New and fun. The moderator is horrified. Okay, so bishop g5. Yeah, I don't like the look of this move because we're just flirting with trading off his bad bishop. I think this is a strategic mistake. Bishop e7. We didn't really want to help him trade off his undeveloped piece there. So I think that black got away with something. And then slowly black has this space, slight space edge due to his, advanced pawn on e4. I don't know that black is better necessarily. Maybe he's not even better. These pawns are kind of borderline overextended. But the line is kind of gray. Here's an interesting question. Yeah, I mean, it's a good bad bishop. It looks like you're playing the white side of a stone wall, and yeah, he's got space to compensate for his bad bishop. The truth is that it's probably equal. No, I mean it was white's bad bishop. Oh, you're talking about bishop e7. I called it his bad bishop. Right. Yeah, technically you're right. The pawns are moved up, so it's not his bad bishop anymore. It actually would be a good bishop on d6. So theoretically, it's just trading pieces when he's kind of bottled up. I mean, I didn't really think about what I was saying. Thanks for pointing that out, Chess Zebra. It's true, it's not really a bad bishop because the central pawns are pushed up to e4 and d5. It would be a good bishop on d6. This is not a bad positional exchange for white, except for the fact that I feel like, black's bottled up. On the other hand, white is bottled up too. There's a book I was just reading about how, in the Spanish in general, white's pieces are often not developed till much later in the opening. This is the case here. So I guess I shouldn't be so harsh on bishop g5. But this definitely seems more natural. Knight e5. But point taken, you're right. It's not a bad bishop. This is a bad bishop. It does occur to me that maybe bishop b3 was a little on the automatic side. Can we play bishop c2? Wonder if that's worth thinking about. No, I don't mind this. Okay, here. He takes it right away. Which way do we take back? I don't know. I mean, it's tempting to take with the pawn. It'd be kind of nice to play like b4 and knight b3. It's a really tough call. You have a great square on c5, but I don't like the situation down here. It is a strange open Roy Lopez, basically. Yeah. Castles. I mean, we really want to play f3 before some bad shit happens. Or maybe even f4. Then he has protected passer. Yeah, I don't know, man. That bad bishop is pretty good. It happens in the Stonewall. Now I'm really getting scared. Yeah, I don't like this. That bishop is not worse than that knight. We're not really better here. Can we play f3 before it's too late? White could drift. I mean, black could drift into a worse ending. What about this? You know, I say, we try it. I think we have to try it, you know, before we get, like, spatially screwed. It's like destroying his strong point on e4. I think it's a very natural move. We're going to get strangulated if we don't. I mean, if you let black play, like, bishop g4... Okay, maybe I'm panicking. You know, yeah, it's possible to do what he did and play, like, queen g3. I just don't think it's bad, you know, f3 takes, rook takes... But I think you have to accept that white's not better in order to play this. If you're under the illusion that white is better, and black has a bad bishop, I mean, here's a move. You could play b4 if you want to. What about a4? Just trying to break on the queen side. Yeah, we're in trouble now. We're getting hit by bishop g4. Dude, we could be toast immediately, right? Like bishop here. You're going to get mated. Now you're definitely going to get mated. That's why f3. If you really want to be on the safe side, you can play f4. It's hard to get mated there. But black has a massive protected pass pawn on e4. f3 is to prevent us getting mated. Nothing major. But okay, queen e3 was an alternative. He's going to try to play queen g3 before getting mated. And this is a nice move by black. You know, it's possible lateral swing with a rook here if the knight moves, but also places the pawn on the dark square. Black doesn't want that pawn sitting on a light square on a6. Now you played a4. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's possible that he has counterplay on the b file. I'm honestly, you know, even considering a3, I don't know. I don't know what to play. I mean, I like trading queens. But I don't think we can force the trade of queens. And I don't think black has any reason to trade queens. What is white going to do? You know, what are you going to do when they come for you? You're going to have to play f3, you know, soon. If not now, then soon. I mean, if you let him play like rook f6, rook g6, you're in trouble, probably. If it's not f3 now, it's f3 later. a4, I don't know. I'm a little concerned about b2. If you lose the game because the b2 pawn is weak, then I told you so. I don't know what black should do, though. I just don't know. Everything's possible. c6. Anything's possible. It's a tough position for black to play, too. Okay, b4. I can't answer all the questions, obviously. But, I mean, with white, you know, trading the queens off, I feel like, you know, our risk assessment goes down. Risk manager. The risk manager for the fraternity is much more relaxed after queen takes g3. Less chance of legal action. H takes g3, rook b8. Yeah, I don't know. You also have to keep an open mind and consider the insane pawn takes, f takes g3. Because being open-minded is a good thing. Never want to make automatic moves without thinking about it. Is there a possible king is good blockading rationale here? I'm still very nervous about a rook getting down on b2. But this is like the normal move. Okay, takes, rook f b8. And now f3 has to be considered. I need oxygen. My king is on g1. It's an endgame. We can counter rook b2 with like rook f2. We're chipping away at his center. If he takes, we take back with the pawn, although rook takes is possible as well. You see, the problem is if you're under the impression that, like, oh, it's a bad bishop, we can't let it out, you could actually lose the game because your king is confined. This is letting his bishop free, but it's also letting our king free. So I don't know which is more vital. But I would seriously consider f3. The computer's evaluation is f3 best move with a microscopic advantage to white. So I think that's quite interesting. Pretty much how I'd evaluate the position. I don't know if I would say 0.0. But if you're thinking, oh, this is a bad bishop, I have to keep it locked down, that might be the case. But I don't see how our king is getting in the game, without playing g4 or f3. So this is slow. And now he has play. And now we're freaking cut off on the 7th rank. So, at this point, it's like danger Will Robinson. We're in serious trouble now. And the problem is f3 might even be too late now, because f3 take bishop h3. And all of a sudden you're like screwed on the 7th rank. Black's threatening rook g2 check. So it's like too late for that now. We have to try something else. Maybe rook e3. Maybe we trade off one rook. We can trade off one rook and hold, probably. Okay, so this is okay, this is okay, this is okay, this is okay. And you played f3. I was thinking maybe rook e3. But I mean, we're definitely not better now. We're only like maximum playing for a draw at this point. So I thought he could take and play bishop h3. Can someone explain this to me? I mean, I guess it's not the end of the world, but white can't completely ignore it. I think it's safe to say that white is not better in this position. Yeah, you made a huge mistake delaying f3. And now you have possible g4. But maybe it doesn't change the situation too much. It might be useful to play it though. If you play g4, he can take on f3, threatening f2 check. You probably have to take back. So I think it's important. This is the most forcing move. I would probably play it, You're not losing, right? I mean, pawn takes, knight takes e4. This is a draw. It's just a draw. So I think you hesitated a little bit with rook e3. I don't know, if that can benefit you. Now you took, and then this is a sensible move. I have this distinct impression you're trying to win. But, you know, that might be a practical mistake. Maybe we should just, like, play rook takes e4 and offer a draw here. King h2. What if black plays, like, h5? I guess king h3. I mean, he could still, like, do that or something. I don't think we're realistically playing for a win here. Are we trying to lose is the question. You got to take the pawn. You know, you're lucky you're holding this. You know, you have this. This is a draw. You gotta like accept it. It's a draw. I'm good at losing like drawn endgames. G4 feels like you're playing for a win. And now the situation is more complicated. Now he has the dangerous outside pawn. I think it's still a draw. But what about rook here? Probably we need to play rook e5. That's safer. You have g5 check. You played it. Yeah, this was sloppy and unnecessary, you know, and you end up, you're like, how to lose a drawn position. This is a draw. I mean, it's just 2-on-1. It's a little complicated by the fact there's those other pawns there, but I don't think it should matter. Yeah, I mean, here you made like a kind of weird move. I would think e4. This has to be a draw. Yeah, I'm skeptical of moving over to the side there. I think you should stay in the center, probably, with king e4. I'm definitely capable of losing this in a time pressure situation. Yeah, this is a risky move, rook takes h7. It seems like you'd be safer not you know, going for that exchange. And I guess he's playing h5 next, but I still don't think he's winning. But it is important that you decide what to do here, though. Your other option is really to play king f3. To be honest, you don't have another option. I mean, if you wait, he has like c5. I don't think that's necessarily good for you. Your other option is to go back, and then he starts moving his pawns. And even if this is theoretically a draw, it's a little tricky. So the computer says it's winning for black after rook takes d4. Wow. I honestly wouldn't know. It's a table base. Too many pieces for the table base here. I don't like the way you like put your king on g4 though. I don't like the way you put your king on e3. I mean, it looks like king e4. Definitely. Although I get it, you know, but his king is pinned here as well. I can't believe this is lost. You know, I really don't believe it's lost. The engine gives it just a tiny advantage. It should be a draw. But this looks a little bit passive. This, I'm not certain about, you know, but it's probably okay. Here, again, you really want the rook to be at a distance. I wonder if you could play g4 there. I mean, it's kind of committal. It might be bad, it might be bad because of this here. But it does stop h5. The table base says you're definitely lost after rook takes h7. There's no way I would know that, but I knew that it looked risky, because I'm not sure about it. Here I really feel creeped out. You should have played king e4. I think this is basically, this is basically the losing move. Wow, you had to play king e4. I understand why you went to g4 to stop h5 and stay near your pawn. It's amazing the difference, though. King e4, h5, rook d7, and you're holding. So king g4 is actually a losing move. Oh, he had a mate. Oh man, with king g6. He's just mating you with h5. Jeez. Well, he's not mating you. You have g3, h5 check. Okay, it's not mate, but it's a disaster. You lose everything. Unbelievable. That's like incidental, though. I don't want to go over there. I want to stay in the center with king e4. I mean, I was scared of h5 too. But he can't do everything, simultaneously. I thought maybe just like rook c8 would be enough to hold. It is. Probably enough to hold, although this is kind of close. Apparently rook d7 is a really, really good move. Rook c2, rook d6 check, king f7. I think the takeaway, though, is active king. Is it just really making sure your king stays active and centralized. You got your king off to the side, and now this pawn is pretty dangerous. So he lets you. Okay, so this is a blunder. c5, according to the table base. Dude, even I wouldn't know for sure the exact winning method here. I just kind of figure it out of the board. But pushing the pawn up is seriously major error. So what move makes the most sense here for black? I mean, of the moves, I guess, king e5 the best. I wouldn't know if this was a win or a draw. The table base is never wrong, obviously. So he pushes the pawn up. That's an inaccuracy. Now it's a draw. But now you have just like g3. Oh, you missed it. Oh, this is just a terrible mistake. So you just missed g3. He has to put his rook on g4, and he's paralyzed. Because he has to go here now. You basically can force this, and then simplify. Oh, that's a win. Okay, you have to go here. This is still complicated. He can go here, 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 and then you're cut off by a file. Okay, it's not that easy. You gotta know what you're doing. Here, g4 doesn't work. King f5, that doesn't work. He has to find a move. Rook f5. You build a bridge. So you're just in time to build a bridge to cross over the f file. That's not so easy. Lucidor. It's Lucifer, right? The Lucifer position. But you should have seen g3. I mean, that's a very forcing move. This was sloppy. Now you're lost. So all it takes is one mistake. Unbelievable. Yeah, now his rook is in a pretty good position. He still has to make progress, though. The problem is, where's your waiting move? Your only waiting move is like a king move, and then he has rook e4 check. So let's say king e2. Rook f5, rook takes c4, king g3. The very technical ending. Just wasn't easy. Now you're totally lost. So what could you do? Nothing, basically. King e2 is your last chance. I mean, this is your best and last chance. And I think, you know, a lot of people wouldn't have the technique to win this with black, probably. It's still complicated. g3 was a little too desperate. Not your best practical chance. This is too easy now. Unfortunately, you're out of the box. Like, you don't have rook takes g5. You need to be inside the square of the pawn, so you can't take the rook. You did have a lot of time. Well, a minute. And now it's totally lost. Okay. Now what do we got? Last game, Eric the Red. Unless move 11 has another submission at the last minute. Or Nils. Could I join you in Discord voice? Not going to do that right now, but I will think about implementing that. It's a good suggestion. Alright, let's just continue here the way we were. Alright, this is Eric the Red playing white. e4, e6, d4, d5. Wow, so this is just a really rare move, knight c6. Against, can we do Discord with everyone and talk Russia? d5. That's a good suggestion, Chessibra. Everyone voice. No, I mean, I think it's an interesting idea, but I'm not ready to implement yet. Alright, d5, knight c3, knight c6. You know, in the Tarash, I mean, this is considered to be like a really legitimate variation, the Guimard, or Guimard. Guys, don't forget to subscribe, please. Support the stream. I am the name has followed. Tolga 10 line has followed. I love talking politics. So knight c6 is just like very rare variation. What is this even called? Paulson variation. I mean, I guess it's in a sense it's like a kind of Nimzovich, right? It's a passive variation of Nimzovich. It has to be bad. I mean, like e4, knight c6, d4, d5. One of the best variations against Nimzovich is Kyrgyz's, you know, I guess I call it Kyrgyz's variation. They're calling it Bulgayabov, whatever. But I mean, knight c3 is a good move, and I just don't think that e6 is a good response. It's passive. Black never plays that move here. So by definition, e6 is a passive line. It's a passive variation of the Nimzovich. Having said that, I'm having a flashback. I think it was Spassky Portish. If you want to look up Spassky Portish games from like the 60s, you can probably find it. It was like I think Portish was pretty young. He's probably slightly younger than Spassky, but he didn't really play stuff like the Nimzovich on a regular basis. Funny that they're both still alive. It's good that they're both still alive, but it was just not really a characteristic opening for Portish to play against legendary Soviet grandmaster. It was weird, it was uncharacteristic. I don't think that Lajos played the Nimzovich too many times. I'm pretty sure it was this. It was something like e6, knight f3, knight f6, bishop b5, or bishop g5. Probably bishop g5 first, bishop e7, and then I sort of feel like it was like a double pin. But I don't know if the game is in... The game isn't necessarily in the lichess Opening Explorer. As viewers, EB Tactic, Nefyadov and I would listen to records in Discord. Records. We are old and technology needs to be brought to the attention of youth. It may take a moment. You have a chess piece video of Sergei something, and the line is something with bishop b2. Well, yeah, not in this position. What about bishop b5 right away? I don't remember what happened in the Portish game. I mean, I feel like it wasn't this, was it? Portish got a really bad position. The move order may have been slightly different, but I'm pretty sure it was the same line. But I don't think he gave up the center. He tried to play like knight f6. Spassky played bishop b5. The game's just not in the Opening Explorer. But if you look it up, it's easy to find. I mean, Portish probably didn't have that many games with Spassky. Probably a handful. So, it's in there. He lost pretty badly with black. This is definitely an awful move. I mean, black is playing the Rubinstein with knight c6. Yeah, Portish is Hungarian. It's an unusual name, though. I don't know the origins of that name. It's a very rare name for a Hungarian, or for anybody, for that matter. Knight f6. Yeah, so you took... Yeah, Rockport would agree. Queen takes f6 is ugly. I mean, white has... If bishop d3, h6, I guess, stopping bishop g5. It's playable better for white. Knight takes f6 looks fine here. Well, I mean, what are white's other options? I think bishop g5 deserves to be considered. Bishop g5 is definitely playable. Bishop g5, bishop e7, bishop takes f6. Now g takes f is like a bad... It's a bad Rubinstein variation, or bad Bern variation, where the knight c6 is just not really a usual move there. He's not supposed to play knight c6. It blocks the c-pawn from counterplay with c5. So bishop g5 is definitely good. And black wouldn't really have any other options. You know, bishop takes f6 is safer. Let's see about bishop b5 here. Alexander Ivanov versus the passive master. White has a very good score here. Bishop d7. It's a good Bern variation again. White's slightly better. I like that better a little bit. So now g takes... this has never been played. Yeah, g takes... I will say something important though, strategically. The d5 push is a very important strategic threat in these type of positions, but not not as dangerous for black as if it's like c6, e6, and you get in d5. Black definitely should take with the pawn. So this is not giving him as much counterplay. His only hope is like e5. I guess theoretically you could play bishop b5, but bishop d7, queen e2. This shockingly was played by Andreikin against Trong Nguyen Trong Son, who I have numerous games against back in the day. We had some good battles. I never beat him. We had a few draws. He escaped. He was like an escape artist. I had him beaten a couple times, and he got away. Houdini. But, yeah, bishop e3 is bad. I don't understand why would Andreikin play that move. This is so passive for white. You know, black's not threatening c5. I don't see what it does. I mean, I guess the truth is you just don't have that many options. I mean, bishop g5 is one of them. Then queen g6. Then bishop d3. This is horrible. f5 is clearly horrible. He could play queen h5 maybe. I think I like that better. There the problem is like white is trying to entrap her queen with g4. So, you know, our options pretty much get limited to like f6 and crawling back there. I think I might like that better than playing f5. The other option is this. But black's queen is, again, suspicious. Yeah, so I think that's the refutation. You know, bishop e3 doesn't refute black's position. This guy keeps popping up everywhere I go. No, it's a different guy actually. Jonathan Rogers. Okay, h6 is a normal looking move. This is basically a weird Rubinstein French, where the bishop may have been kicked back by h6. I don't know. But it's interesting, like, Nguyen played bishop d6 with a very straightforward plan of e5 at some point later. That might be better. It's unnecessary to play h6 now after you played bishop e3, probably. This is a reasonable plan, but I think other moves are possible. You could play bishop d3 with the idea of queen e2 and castle queenside, but this is a question. Yeah, we have a problem with knight b4. So c3, you have to judge the effect of e5. Yeah, this is a weird line. I don't know what white can play. But I don't know what white should play. Another suggestion is maybe queen d3. Actually, he played queen d2, but maybe queen d3 is worth considering. There again, you can get hit by this. But it's not the end of the world if black plays like knight d5 and takes your bishop. Queen d3, castle's long type of ideas. Somebody played g3. Somebody named Luke McShane. I played with him a couple times. He was an escape artist too. g3 by McShane. Weakening the white squares. Luke McShane, Scottish. He's not Scottish. Maybe the name is Scottish. Alright. Right, g3. Cool hand Luke. He was like FIDE rated 2100, FIDE master Luke McShane when I played him. He was like 12 years old. We played twice. It was funny. H6, G3. Alright, anyway, Queen E2 is a reasonable move. This is not good. You're not making a bet. You're not even risking any money. Dude, if the guy was Scottish, he would have been like board one for the Scottish Olympic team. All his life, chess for zebras. Of course he's not Scottish. He might have Scottish relatives or something, but he's represented England his entire life. Why do you doubt me? Alright, I played the guy when he was like 12 years old. Twice, in 2 different tournaments. C3, bishop A5, B4. Why does anybody doubt me? Mac Shane. Mr. Coffee. Yeah! McDonald's. I like the way White played this against that bishop on B6. We're not going to castle queenside, but that's okay. Grab a lot of space. Graboloscopy. It's time to focus on something else. White has a very strong position here. You could even consider A5, bishop A7, bishop F4, probably. The guy, he might literally have to play bishop B8. He really let you get away with murder. But I don't like his opening in the first place. This turned out really well. But, this is crazy what he did. Bishop B4 it's a terrible move. He has to play bishop D6 like Homie did with the E5 plan. You found your submission for next week. This is such an awful move. Seriously, it's like, I'll give you a free tempo and put my bishop on a bad square to double down on a bad plan. It's awful. And then good for you for playing B4, This is strong. This is his last chance to play E5. Maybe it's too late, right? Can he play E5? Hold on. His last chance to play E5. Literally. Can he play it? No doubt, White is better. What is the referendum on Scottish independence? Call Nicola Sturgeon or whatever. Can I get a referendum on Scottish independence? No, wait. Time out. The Queen died. No arguing about politics for 1 week. Alright, E5. Can I play this? E5, A5. Oh shit. Houston, we have a problem. Yeah, I just recaptured with the pawn, and you just lost the piece. Okay. Well, that answers that question. There's no time for E5. He might want to do A5 and answer B5 with some kind of retreat like that, but it still looks bad. So Black's in a really bad position. I'm not sure about bishop C4. You might want to consider A5. What happened with the chubby girl? So rook D8, G4. He remembers all the important things. Why a5 or bishop f4? Okay, I mean, you have to develop your bishop, right? But I'm not sure about why bishop c4. But you got three possible squares here. But I feel like we want to nail down control of e5 with white. Our bishop is just better on f4 and controlling e5, so I really don't see a problem with this. a5, bishop b8, bishop f4 attacking his c pawn. This only improves our bishop and ties black down. There's no world in which this is not a good idea. I think we just have a massive space advantage, and black has really no counterplay. The bishop on e3 is not generally a well-placed piece. Oof. Yeah, g4 is really radical. I was hoping for something like much safer, but black suddenly has threats of c5 busting out on the queen side. This is definitely risky, weakening our king side. And now he has serious counterplay. Is this queen trapped with g5? He's got queen f5, queen here. Now, is there a way to trap that queen, or, did we like fatally weaken our own king side? That's the question. Do you have bishop e2? I don't see how we can trap his queen. So basically, when I try to play, I try to like maintain total control of the position. You let him get in c5, which is a big no-no. If we had really been careful, that wouldn't have been possible. Shouldn't have happened. Black got serious counterplay here with c takes d4. It turns out like the lead singer of the Sex Pistols is like a big Donald Trump fan. That's really disappointing, huh? Alright. Speaking of punk rock, what kind of self-respecting punk rockers are fans of Donald Trump? Alright, queen h3, g takes h, c takes d4, c takes d4, bishop takes d4. I knew he could steer the conversation towards politics. h7 check, king f8. Alright, so this is just officially like totally out of control. You took a normal position where you had a total space advantage, absolute control of the position, and it blew up into I don't know what the hell is happening here. Maybe white's winning by force, maybe black's winning by force. Wow. Yeah, no, I mean, I think, you have to first of all understand like how good your position is really after like a6. There's absolutely no counterplay. Black has no counterplay. You stop c5 for good, especially if you play a5. I think it's going to make it even harder. Once you eliminate all counterplay, then it's all upside from there. What is he going to do? You're going to move your bishop, where you want to go. I think e2 is safe. There's no reason to do anything fancy. But this stopping e5 is important. You got to stop his counterplay. Stop c5, stop e5, and then you slowly take over the entire board. And that's it. Game over. But watch what happened. In the game, bishop c4, castle, here, here. For the moment, you're in control, right? But he has c5. He can't do it right away because of maybe tactics, I don't know. Rook d8 was a good move. So here, is it too late for you to be like, oh, I don't like that, I'll play queen e2? You've got to introduce more prophylaxis and kind of preventative thinking. This is like you're on a track and you can't get off it. I would be very reticent to play g4. I would only do that if I'm desperate. We're on tilt. Clearly, the safe move to play here is queen e2. It looks like you're still in good shape. He might be able to play c5, but I don't see it, right? Takes here, and you win a piece. He can't play c5, so all he can do is like knight f5, and I don't care if he takes my bishop. Not the end of the world. Or knight d5, and you play maybe bishop d2 or something. And again, like if he gets our bishop, it's still not the end of the world. Knight f4, bishop takes here. We're still better. Black can't achieve like e5 or c5. He can't free himself. So white has this huge space advantage and attacking chances. Ultimately, you're always better here. But after g4, the whole thing spirals out of control. You don't know if his queen is trapped or if you're just like weakening your king's side. I wasn't sure. It's possible there's a way to trap his queen. But I mean, f4, it's just a little slow. Pawn takes pawn. It looks too slow. But hold on a second here. So he plays, let me get this right. You played g5, he goes there. You played bishop d3, he goes there. You played that. But wait a minute. What's happening here on b takes c? Like, he can play bishop c7 and his situation is improved, but I still think you're probably winning after that. The point is, like, the tactic doesn't work. After this, you just, like, take this. I mean, you're up a piece here. I don't think there's anything special. He could try crazy move like f6, but even if you have to play this move, maybe, he has perpetual there. Oh shit, he has perpetual. Pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn. Oh yeah, bishop h7 check. That's kind of a problem. It's hard for me to see one move tactic. It's hard. Bishop h7 check. Yeah. Nice knowing you. Notice there is no perpetual here. But he does have tricks to try to get a perpetual. I mean, he could play something different. How long has bishop h7 been in position? As soon as you take here, you're threatening bishop h7. Yeah, so on f6 he loses immediately to bishop h7. He can't play f6. So he has to try something else. Knight c6. Last chance. And that, my friends, could be a perpetual. Knight c6 double exclam. But it's not a perpetual, right? Because we have the shocking f4. Radically avoiding a perpetual check. At the end of the day, I mean, black should be losing because his queen side is, like, non-existent. Even your other rook is ready to shift into the game. So you're winning even here. He doesn't have perpetual check. Yeah, you just have to calculate. You can't play on intuition. This is a big mistake. But I don't know what's going on now after h7 check. Yeah, speaking of which, bishop takes d4. So what's happening here? You also have bishop takes d4, rook takes d4, bishop h7 check, king takes h7, queen takes d4. When you're up a rook. Rook for bishop, so you're up the exchange. So you've got to calculate all the possibilities. Bishop takes d4. He would have to take it, and then you're winning the exchange here. Check, king takes, queen takes. White is better. I don't know, probably winning. So h7 kind of random, but might be good. What do you want to do? h8 queen. Anybody? h8 queen, check, queen takes, then he takes f7. No, it's a bit much. h8 queen here. You could take. You have to take, maybe. No, but he has rook takes now. What's your next move? You have queen f4. No, queen f4. Bishop h6 apparently. Ah. I would need to be fresher mentally to see that. Yeah, wins. But chaos is not, we don't prefer chaos to clearly winning. You got into a chaos situation and it was a little bit difficult to calculate. You're still totally winning. Yeah. Now queen f4. Too late. He's threatening mate. Okay, f3 here. And now he's got a solid light square blockade with a knight f5. Queen f4. You didn't play queen f4. But queen f4 is the most tempting. It's always good to threaten mate in one. And on knight f5 you have bishop c5 check. He has to play king h8. I mean e8. I mean, obviously this position is crazy, but we're not necessarily getting mated. It's still a game. Yeah, this was like a really weird move. Queen b2. You're way out of position here on b2. You pretty much like have to play queen f4. You almost have knight g6. Yeah, that was sad. Losing a piece. Alright guys, thank you for submitting the games. I will be back next week with the same thing. If you're a subscriber, don't forget, every Thursday night we do this. Thanks to everybody for supporting the stream. For those of you who did donate, our new subscribers, Mr. Coffee, thanks to all of you. I will be back tomorrow morning with some rapid challenges, so I'll see you for that. Thank you, friends, Romans, and countrymen. I will see you all tomorrow morning. Mr. Coffee later. Thanks, Chess Zebra, and everyone for being subscribers. See you later. Bye-bye.